Fáilte Awali, my friends. Welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to look into the legend of the Caorthannach. It is a little known Irish legend that I'm sure you're all going to enjoy. But before we get into that, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, leave a comment letting us know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe. So, without any further delay, let's dive into the legend of the Caorthannach. Vampires, soul stealers, headless horsemen, changelings. All indeed terrifying Celtic myths. In this video, however, we're going to explore one of the most frightening, most intimidating creatures yet. In short, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. We have all known or personally experienced an overly protective mother. Perhaps a mother that's a bit overbearing, bossy. Even literature and Hollywood have used the sometimes precarious, delicate and complicated mother-child relationship for their own means, twisting it into tales of some of the most horrific nightmare mothers ever known to man. Joan Crawford in Mommy Dearest, Margaret White in Carrie, Queen Gertrude in Hamlet, Euripides Medea, Queen Circe... No, that doesn't sound right. I'm going to skip that, I can't pronounce that. We have all known or personally experienced an overly protective mother. Perhaps a mother that's a bit overbearing, bossy. Even literature and Hollywood have used the sometimes precarious, delicate, complicated mother-child relationship for their own means, twisting it into tales of some of the most horrific nightmare mothers ever known to man. Joan Crawford in Mommy Dearest, Margaret White in Carrie, Queen Gertrude of Hamlet, Queen Circe Lannister from Game of Thrones, and let us not forget Norman Bates' dear sweet mother in Psycho. Whether a Hollywood dramatised creation or a real life variety, it's safe to say that a mother-child relationship is often complex. But no mother, no matter how hellish or hounding, can compare to the Caorthannach, the Celtic fire spitter, said to be the mother of the devil himself. When the planet was just a swirling mass of vapours, waters and rock, the Caorthannach was hatched, deep inside the molten core of Earth. There she waited. What was she waiting for? Well, being that she was, after all, the mother of the devil, she wasn't a very nice creature. So she was waiting for us, humans. Pray for her demon-spawned children, and in particular, her son. True enough, she and her children were waiting for us, and oh did the Caorthannach's family have fun once we got here. But for this most famous tale of the Caorthannach, we are going to skip ahead to the 5th century AD. Picture it, the craggy and cold rock that was Ireland had only just emerged from the Dark Ages, and medieval life was still hard and cruel for the inhabitants. The scattered and unruly tribes of the time were prisoner not only to hunger and disease, but also to the fear that came from the veritable onslaught of myths and magical beings that they saw behind every corner, in every shadow, and from every sudden illness and death. By this point, the Caorthannach and her demon children had run rampant, unchecked, for thousands of years over the defenceless people. And in short, the people were right sick of her. Into this wild and disorderly scene enters a man who went on to not only change Ireland, but the face of Christianity himself. A man who began life in 385 AD, known as Patricius, and died almost 100 years later as St. Patrick, patron saint of Ireland. As lives go, Patrick had a tumultuous first 50 years. The son of Roman nobility occupying Wales, he was captured by Irish pirates at the age of 16, sold as a slave, tended sheep for his druid priest master, received visions from God that instructed him to save Ireland from paganism by converting the nation to Christianity. He escaped to France after 6 years of slavery, studied the priesthood, was consecrated by Pope Saint Celestine I as Bishop of the Irish, and finally sent back to Ireland to fulfill his vision and his mission of saving the Irish people. And save them he did, from countless demons and curses and monsters that tried to break the spirit of his people and thwart his good work. Enter the Caorthannach. Several years after his return to Ireland, Patrick had had enough of her and her demonic children, many of whom took the biblical form of snakes. Patrick prayed for guidance and aid in ridding his beloved Erin Isle of her lot, and it was then that Jesus came to him, telling him of a certain cave in the depths of Loch Derg on Station Island, which was not only the Caorthannach's home, but also a portal to hell. If he could destroy the Caorthannach, Patrick could rid his people of her pestilence, once and for all. Knowing what he had to do, Patrick climbed a steep slope to the top of a peak of Ox Mountain, which is now called Caorthannach in County Mayo, on the coast of the dark Atlantic Ocean. There he raised his holy cross here, and, summoning all the grace and power of God could grant him, banished all the snakes out of Ireland. They were caught up in a tremendous whirlwind from Dublin to Galway and from Antrim to Cork, which swept them all out to sea to sink into the murky depths, never to return. But our story doesn't end there. Surely you figured out that old Caorthannach had put up more of a fight than that, and she did. She was caught in the wind, but fought herself free and fell to the ground on top of the peak, directly in front of Patrick. They battled atop the mountain for 2 days and 2 nights. Finally, fearing she might be beaten, the Caorthannach slid down the side of the cliff and made for the safety of Loch Derg, with Patrick having grabbed a horse, hot on her heels. As she retreated, the clever serpent knew the chase would make Patrick thirsty, so she made sure to spit her toxic fire into every well and stream they passed, poisoning the water. And Patrick indeed grew painfully thirsty, but he knew that he had to keep going on. He managed to pick up speed and cut through tall grasslands, getting in front of the Caorthannach to cut her off before she reached the lake. When he reached the town at Tullahan, County Leitrim, Patrick feared his thirst might kill him before he finished his mission. He bowed his head and prayed for a drink of cool, clean water. As the prayer left his parched lips, his horse stumbled upon a sharp rock and Patrick was thrown to the ground. In answer to his prayer, a well sprung up from where he struck, and Patrick drank the water down gratefully. After he drank his fill, Patrick rode on, speeding off toward Loch Derg to wait for the Caorthannach. When the Caorthannach arrived, thinking she had outwitted her pursuer, she started to enter the lake. It was then that Patrick jumped out from behind a large rock. Some say Patrick landed on the serpent and the both sank into the cold, shadowy darkness, locked in fierce combat until he was swallowed whole by the Caorthannach. Using his crosier, he tore his way free from her belly, spilling her venomous blood into the water, and giving the loch its name, Loch Derg, which means Dark Lake. Others say Patrick did not go into the lake. Instead, he stood on the bank and banished her to an underwater cave with one word, the force of which was so great it lifted the Caorthannach and slammed her down into the water, creating a wave that flooded the surrounding lands for a decade. Whatever way you look at it, St. Patrick was victorious, and the hideous fire spitter, mother of all demons, the Caorthannach, has not been seen in the Emerald Isle since that day. Legend has it that the Caorthannach is not dead nor banished, but simply waiting. After all, she waited for the first man so patiently. Her demon spawn still roams the earth in one form or another, And her son unfortunately still holds his seat in the underworld. But she may yet just get tired of waiting down below, in the depths of that bleak, bottomless water, and pay us all another little visit. My guess is she won't be happy. And you know how that saying goes. Our mothers always remain the strangest, craziest people we've ever met. So that's it from us today. What did you guys think of the story of the Caorthannach? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, if you like the channel, please subscribe. So until next time, my friends, good night and good luck.